YOLO, David. Happy episode.
What's
Hold on, I'm trying to
up?
edit. There it is. That's why I'm like, why is
18.
it? I normally do mine. What's up, David? Episode
Yeah.
18. This is I think either we don't communicate well or we like surprising each other because this is one of those episodes that you didn't tell me what we was doing until the last minute and fun
Oh yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
got
with
that
no
bad.
further
But
ado, David, then we're going to double team me again today, but I'm interested in this topic.
right,
So
right,
we will
right,
bring
right.
on hello, sir,
Andre Harris.
How y'all doing?
What's going on,
Mr.
good sir?
Harris.
Nothing.
You're
Chilling.
tapping
Had
in with
happy to be here.
Well, we
thank
happy
you
to
for
have you, man.
coming.
Yes.
Yes, we are. We're excited to definitely tap into what David has in store with this
Hmm.
conversation and I get to observe. So I'm excited and give
For
input,
sure.
of course.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Um
but first of all, man, why don't you introduce yourself? Not too many people may be very aware of who you are and what you do
yeah.
for the community. So go ahead
Yeah.
and
For
tell them
sure.
what you're doing around town and how you got started. First of all.
For sure. So my name is Andre Harris. I'm the founder and CEO of Dads Against Crime, which is a nonprofit geared towards man. Um, it was a nonprofit geared towards men who lose children due to gun violence. That's why we started. So we started when 4-year-old legend Talaferro was murdered in his father's home.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
We seen how all the attention was going towards Legend's mom, and my heart went out to his dad because I'm like, why isn't anybody talking to the dad or interviewing the dad since he was murdered in his father's home?
Mm-hmm.
So I got on a little soul search, found out who Ralph Talaferro was, found out he wasn't no rah rah shoot him up, he wasn't no gangster, he wasn't in the streets like that. Didn't have a criminal record. So I went home and I told my wife, I said, well, now we got to create something for men who lose children due to gun violence. And so my wife said, well, what's the first thing that they might lose if they need a child? And so I said, therapy. And so I went out and I found a therapist that would do therapy for us for men who come through our organization. And then I
mm,
didn't want to stop there. And so, me and my wife sat down and we what else would they need? And so we came up with jobs. I was like, well, they might need jobs. And so I went out, found some companies that would partnership with us that would guarantee jobs for men who come through my organization. So I am the only person. We are the only business outside of a company as far as like nonprofit that can guarantee men jobs. Our hiring rate is 100%. And then we started a mentorship program. And then I was Stacy Shaw actually used to be my lawyer. So one day I'm sitting in her office, we talking about my having my felony expunged, and it just sat in my heart, and I was like, most men don't have $2,000 to give to a lawyer to get their record expunged. And so
Mm-hmm.
I went home and I told my wife, and I was like, hey, we got to do something about it. And my wife was like, you do something about it. And I was like, you know what? Okay. So I went out, found the lawyer that would do felony expungements for us. And then we partner up with Good Dads KC
Mm-hmm.
to do child support cases to where now we can get the man back in front of the judge
mm.
and make sure that he's paying child support for what he's currently making now and not what he used to make. And if he owe
Right.
back child support, we can ask that judge to knock half of it off so he can live and still have money in his pocket and still do the things that he needed to do in order to be a great dad. And then we had the problem was though we had the reason why we had to change our mission statement and all of that is because we had men coming up to us and said, "Hey, I never lost a child due to gun violence. Or I haven't lost a child at all. Do I still qualify for these services?" And I realized how many men we were neglecting by saying we only help men who lose children due to gun violence. And so then
Right.
we opened it up for all men. So now any man can come and get therapy, a job, mentorship, felony expungement, child support. They can get it all.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So
It
what
is
would
because you saw a need
Yes.
and you tackled into it. Sorry, go ahead, David.
I was gonna say, so what would you say is a defining thing in yourself that drove you to go out here and spearhead this? Because I mean, a lot of people, they'll see a need and then they'll be like, well, I'll worry about myself, and that'll be on the other brother to deal for himself. But you
Hmm.
like basically paved the way, for
Yeah,
others to go ahead and experience, things that you were able to experience, the freedom and having, that backing. So I mean, what was that thing that just made it seem like, this is gonna be the thing I champion?
honestly, and I'll just be straightforward. I have to say it was the Lord. I'm a firm believer in, Yahweh. Serve Him, love Him with all my heart. And so this was a lane and a door that Yahweh opened. I always had a servitude heart. Like I always
Hmm.
wanted to help people. I was doing that before I started doing this. Um,
Right.
the Lord just put a name to it and put a business to it, and
Mm.
then allowed me to go out there and do it on a bigger level, outside of what I could have did by myself. So instead of helping one man, I'm helping multiple men now. So,
Right.
I got to give all the credit and all the glory to God. This was something that He created. He the steward of this, and He just got me along for the journey. You know what I'm saying? And He just
Man.
using me to bless other people.
See, that goes back to
Mm.
a thing I always talk to a lot of people, man, is this: it's not about what we can do or offer God. It's about us just being available for him. And
Yeah,
that availability, man, and just saying, whatever it is, man, I'll go ahead and do it. That's that blessing. He's like,
yeah,
you'll go ahead and plant the seed, but he's the one that blesses it and multiplies it. And you can
yep,
see with all the avenues that you touched, man, that you blessing others. You that
yeah,
conduit, where everybody's being able to go ahead and get a piece of that blessing that God's placed in your heart. So
yes.
what is what's going on with you this Christmas season, man? I mean, what's the drive?
So next week, December 23rd, Saturday, December 23rd, we doing what we normally do every year. Now this is personal for me, because I never really had a Christmas. My mama
Mm,
had 12
Mm.
kids, and so I only remember one time in my whole childhood that I seen a Christmas tree, and that I seen
wow.
presents. I can't remember getting toys. And so I know what it's like for a single mother or a single father to be struggling and not
Hmm.
being able to support their kids, and not be able to get their
Wow.
kids the toys.
Hmm.
So if I know what that feel like personally, and now that I'm grown, it's like I know what that feel like, and now I don't want another parent to have to struggle. I don't want that parent to go get debt
Mm.
and go max out their credit cards and try and start sweating and getting into this depression for trying to
Hmm.
make something happen for their children, for Christmas. So we step in and we say we're going to adopt families. Last year we adopted 15 families. This year we adopted 30 families, and next year we're adopting 45 families, and we're going to go up by 15 every year.
15.
you know,
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
that's the goal in the plan. So we're adopting 30 families we have, and altogether it's about 68 kids that we adopted, and we're gonna make sure that they
Wow.
get presents and have a Christmas. And we're also gonna feed them, make sure that they get some food in their belly, and then we're gonna let the parents pick out the toys for their babies. That way, they have something up under the tree for Christmas this year.
And
Wow.
it helps the parents to feel accomplished. I know you mentioned that on the because
Absolutely.
because David tried to basically podcast before with 7 o'clock with you, in the
No,
green
man.
room.
I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to podcast.
He
I'm
Yeah.
was
I'm
trying to
hey,
podcast.
I mean, that just lets you know, man, that I'm totally interested in what you got, the
Yeah.
intricacies that you got going
Yeah.
on, because man, like all the times that we talked to each other in past, and I mean, I know we haven't had a chance to actually work together on some of your
Yes.
events and stuff like that, but every time we talk, it wasn't more or less like, hey, you do something for me, I do something for you. It was always like, hey, brother, if I can help you, I got time, I'm gonna do it. And I
Yeah.
always appreciate that, because it's not too many brothers out there that will give you time, because we can get money back. It's a lot of things you
Yeah.
can get back, but as we were talking in the green room, you can't get your time back.
Nah.
And there's really not a amount of money that could go ahead and replace your time once it's spent. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Yeah, that's true.
So, I appreciate you talking because I mean, it's a couple times I just called you out the blue. It was like, hey man, I know you got jobs available.
Yeah,
We're doing the outreach, young man, we try to help with a job, and the other time my homeboy Winston, we had him on the show. I was like, hey
yeah,
man,
Yeah.
he does ministry, he does after school specials with teens, man. You deal with teens. Hey, y'all need to link up. It's just like one of them things
yeah,
like, hey, it's that pipeline. As
yeah.
long as we supporting each other and pouring in each other, man, we can do nothing but grow. But when we, cut each other off and be like, well, I ain't gonna mess with him or I ain't gonna deal with him because it ain't benefiting me, that's when we just lose the whole idea of trying to help our brother or better yet, benefit the community by going out there and showing them an example of what we could do if we actually work together.
For
So
And
sure.
the crazy thing about that just in general is that you hear people talk about, fixing, especially women. We always talk about fixing each other's crowns and things like that because one of the hardest things to do as a human, period, is to be vulnerable enough around somebody that you don't know to
mm,
allow them to help lift you back up because you touched on
Mm,
something, Andre, that is my husband and I just had this conversation literally like either last night or the night before about Christmas and things like that.
yeah.
And I was telling him, a lot of people from the outside looking in, David probably could vouch for this because he's around my son, but a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, your son's got to be spoiled. He's an only child. You guys give him whatever he wants." He is spoiled in love, but he's also very grounded. And we did that with a perfect balance. And it was
Mm,
because of what you just said. Like when I was growing up, my father was in the military, he was gone. He was overseas most of my childhood. My grandparents and stuff were here, but I don't remember having like Christmas time just was magical to me, but it wasn't because of the presents because I didn't really get a lot of that. It was just
yeah.
because of that was the one time of the year that you really just got to be with your family, whether it was
Mm,
dysfunctional or not. We got to run around with our cousins. We had slumber parties and it was just the food was amazing and it was just one of those times a year that just meant so much to me, but one of the biggest reasons that I do it big for my son is because I didn't have an opportunity to get it done big for me, even though at the
yeah.
time I only had a sister and 2 brothers because my younger siblings are all like, I was a teenager by the time they started coming and an adult, but there was like 60 girls in our family. We had
Mm,
my grandma, they had a bunch of kids and all they kids had a bunch of kids, so it wasn't
yeah.
that it was just, the siblings, it was a bunch of cousins, so we would get socks and, long johns and stuff like that and little peppermint candy, but I didn't get to go out and be like, "Hey, I want a hoverboard or I want an iPad," and my son can do those things, but it was because of what I didn't have that it really encouraged me to do what I do for him, but I try to, and my sister does this with her kids too, instill in him that you always have to give back. You
Yeah.
always have to give back to people that you don't realize gave so much to you. My passion, like you're very
Mm,
passionate about uplifting your fellow man and showing them that you have a support. Like, hey, bro, you got to support me. My passion has always been the military. Like I'm very passionate
mm,
about giving back to our servicemen and women because I grew up in a military family. So
yeah.
you know, I have I work with a lot of people and we do different things. And like David said, like all of this is networking. Kansas City is not very big. So you get linked up with the right people, you network with the right people. Like David said, David is a link to a lot of different things, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Winston and you and what you do, Winston with the outreach program for the youth. I work with a lot of different vocal programs where we use our voices to give back in certain ways. And then, we all have different professional jobs that we can use to contribute. But like whatever ways of contributing, I think is really important, even if it's at the smallest scale. So it leads me to my question to
Yes.
really ask you,
Absolutely.
how do you how do you work with other organizations or just individuals who say, "You know what? I really love what this guy is doing. I really love the ministry that he's creating. How can I get in and help or contribute even if it's just donating a toy or something?"
Yes. So if I just be honest, that's a whole different story. the Lord give me discernment. I honestly, I don't just work with anybody. Uh, so
Mm.
in order for me to work with somebody, they really have to be. I give you a true story. I got a call probably about a year ago, and this person heard about my nonprofit, and this person was like, hey, Andre, I heard about your nonprofit. Would love to work with you. We can do this, we can do that. And she was like, I got contacts downtown, and they can get us $900,000. And so I had to tell her. I said, I'm gonna be honest with you. I said, I don't. You can't bribe me with money. I said, Dak been surviving by the grace of God for 3 years, so money don't move me. But I said,
Mm.
tell me about some of the stuff that you're doing in the community. Like, give me some contacts or some people that you help that I can
Mm.
call and ask them, did you really do what you do? And I said, don't tell me about those events that you do once a year. I said, because every nonprofit does events once a year. But I said, I can give you a group of a whole list of people that can tell you that I have helped them. You know, we don't pay man mortgage, we don't pay their rent, we don't put them in hotels, we don't bought groceries, we don't bought their kids school supplies. Like we do more than just what I said, you know, but that stuff I don't post because that stuff is personal. And so I'm not gonna be posting when a man come to me and say, hey, I need you to pay my utility bill. I'm not posting
Right.
that. That's between me and you. Now, if I get
Right.
you a job, I'll post that.
Mm.
If I
Mhm.
get you therapy, I'll post that. You know, mentorship, we'll post that. Felony
Right.
expungement, we'll post that. But like when you coming to me for that personal stuff and you need bills that pay, I'm not about to exploit you like that. And so anyway, she said, hey, look, you will take 450,000, I'll take 450,000. And I had to tell her, I was like, you got to tell me about some people that you help, and then I got to be able to call in to see if you really helped them. And
Mm.
me and her never got in a partnership because she couldn't provide that information that I asked her for. So, but you know, it's through the Lord that He gives me discernment. And so I got to really see a nonprofit. I really got to see they boost to the ground. Like I got to see them in a community actively helping, and not just out here getting the money and running away with it.
Right.
So it's not that I won't work with other nonprofits because I desire to, but you know, the proof got to be in the pudding. You can't be still in front of people. You know, I
Right.
ain't gonna. I don't do it for
That
money. Never
that
did
is
it for
a
money. Never will do it for money.
that is a powerful statement right there. Like it's not about that. You stand on principle and
Yeah,
your overall objective, like your mission.
yeah,
Your mission is because so do you understand like even the most honorable churches and I'm not trying to say anything negative, this is just the honest to God truth. Even the most honorable churches and pastors and bishops and other nonprofit organizations, if somebody presented that type of opportunity, especially talking about almost a meal, and I don't really got to do nothing but shake your hand, they would have jumped all over that. Not a lot of people would have stood on principle, like, you know what? I don't need you to come and show me and give me this business proposal and sell me on the financial gain. I want you to sell me on your footwork. I want you
yeah,
to sell me on how many people you actually are out here helping.
yeah,
And then you walked away from a potential deal based on
yeah,
principle and your
yeah.
mission. Like there's not a lot of organizations that will do that. And
I'm gonna
that's
be honest
if
with you.
anything else, you definitely are commendable for just that one
Yeah,
statement.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's because of the Lord. If I wasn't
Yeah.
saved, I would have took that 450,000. I'll tell you that right now. You know.
Listen,
But
listen.
the Lord gave me a conscience, right? And so He gave me a conscience, and so uh, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I'm not that person. I can't rip nobody off. I can't do it. Like, and so I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I had to step on men back or throw them under the bus in
Mm,
order to advance. So God gonna give it to me. God gonna bless Dak for sure, but He's gonna bless it only if I keep my integrity intact. If I
Mm.
lose my integrity, God ain't gonna bless nothing.
Right.
If I lose my righteousness, God won't bless nothing. But if long if I act with my integrity and righteousness and with a pure heart, God gonna bless me. Yeah, it's gonna take me a little bit longer to get there in order to expand like I want to expand. But you know what? At night I'm gonna be able to sleep. At night I know I got clean hands. At night I know I didn't throw my people under the bus in order to get a check.
Right, right.
I can live with that. I can't
Yeah.
live with sacrificing bodies for the benefit of myself. I can't do it.
Man, but I mean, you bring up a point there, though. I mean, you may not be operating in your timing, but I mean, it's in God's timing.
Yes,
It seems like
absolutely.
whenever we rush, man, and try to put things together ourselves, a lot of times we find ourselves falling short. We get
Yep.
tired and burnt out real quick, but it seems like whenever we work on God's timing, it's like this ain't even heavy to us, man. This is light work.
Nah,
It's
light
light
work,
work.
man.
It's light work.
Light work.
So, man, let's go ahead and talk about this vulnerability, man. The vulnerability
Yeah,
when
for
it
sure.
comes to dealing with other men, dealing with yourself. I mean, what was the things that you had to do with yourself to put you in the situation that you're in now?
Uh, so for me, my therapist that works for Dads Against Crime actually is the therapist that counseled me when I got out the streets. Sold drugs for 10 years. I did my thing out there, made a lot of money, and I was just doing my thing. But a lot of stuff came with that. I've been stabbed, shot at multiple times. Uh, been to jail, arrested 16 for murder. I didn't do it, but the no snitching thing wouldn't allow me to tell on nobody. 17, same thing, 2 counts of attempted murder. Wasn't involved in it, didn't do it, that had no part in it, but me not wanting to snitch made me keep my mouth closed. Um, and so just going through life, man, 10 years of living that life, from being shot at. My brother chased me down the street with a Tech 9 with an anti-cooling system on it, dumping on me in broad daylight, trying to kill me. Couldn't
Mm,
catch me. He went back to the house and he pistol whipped my baby mama with it. My younger brother, I walk in and overhear a conversation of my younger brother and my cousin plotting to kill me. And so you can
Mm.
realize that I was dealing with a lot of stuff that I didn't know how to put names to. And so when I got out that street life, I was saved, but I was still dealing with these emotions. Like I give you examples, like I would never pull up to a house and put my car in park. I would always keep my car and drive with my foot on the gas, or I always back in, or I always be looking over my shoulders. And if a car was following me for more than 2 blocks, I was thinking
mm,
they was trailing me. And so I was dealing with some residual even after I had left that street life. And so
mm,
I had to get therapy for that. And Roderick Williams, which is our therapist, he really, really helped me out. And I'm in a great place because of therapy, along with the word of God, and along with fasting and praying. I ain't taking nothing from God, but also God sent that godly man into my life to help me, who went to school for it, who got his
mm,
degree in it. um, and he sent that man into my life actually to help me, man. And God is good, and that's the only way. That's why I'm an advocate for therapy. I'm like, you can be godly and still go to therapy. Talk to somebody about what you're
mm.
going through. God is not against that. You know
No.
what I'm saying? Like, He's not against that. You're not crazy. In the black community, it's looked upon. If you go to a therapist, it's like,
Mm.
oh my God, you're crazy. Like, you don't, nah. If you believe those people, you're gonna stay messed up in the head for as long as you out here. And a therapist and a psychiatrist are two different people. A psychiatrist is going to take medication and just throw it down your throat. A therapist says, "Hey, I'm gonna give you tools, and if you use these tools that I give you, I promise you, you will be a better person without medication." Um, and so I will always say I'm not frowning upon people who need medication, because I'm never throwing that out the window, because some people do need anxiety for depression and stuff like that. But I'm saying most people don't need that medication because it's not that severe. They just need a little bit of tools to know how to manage what they feeling and put a name to it. And once you put a name to it and you manage it, you'll be all right. And
Mm.
for me, it was just I just needed therapy. That's all I needed.
Right. So therapy was the biggest thing, but what was the thing that
Yeah.
got you past the stigma? Because, like you said, in the black community, as men, we are taught to, if we are breaking down, um, you just got to suck it up, you know, push that stuff down.
Yep.
If you start crying, you soft. We taught this at an early age, man.
Yeah.
So what was the thing that got you past the stigma and said, hey, I need help because I can't do this by myself?
Stop listening to people. Honestly, for real,
Yeah,
I just had to.
that's
I
a good
had to
one.
stop listening to them. I had to do my own soul searching. Like I would have never went to therapy if I would have kept listening to people in my environment and in my society saying, "Hey, you're crazy if you go talk to a therapist.
Hmm.
You're something is wrong with you mentally if you go talk about your emotion." I had to stop listening to them. I had to tune
Right.
all that out, and I had to tell myself, "Nah, I'm not crazy for going to go talk to some. A therapist is no different than me talking to you about my problem. The
Exactly.
only
It's a
difference is
Except
the
title.
they're
name.
professionally trained.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
that's it.
They're
They're
professionally
professionally
trained to
trained
help you.
to deal with what I'm going through. They know what to call it.
Exactly.
They know the tools to use to get me there. And so I just stopped listening to people, man. And I wanted to be better for my children. Like I got four girls and I got a son.
Hmm.
My children needed to see, at the time I only had two, just my two oldest. So my daughters needed to see what a completely healed man looked like. My
Mm.
daughters needed to see what a man looks like who knows how to control his emotions, who know how to display frustration, uh, who know how to display when he's angry, when he's mad, joy, happiness. I needed to learn how to differentiate between all of these emotions. My daughters needed to see that. They needed
Mm.
to see a
Mhm.
whole dad, and they wouldn't have seen that. You know what I'm saying? If I
Hmm.
would have stayed listening to my environment and listening to the people around me, I would have
Wow.
stayed broken.
Mm.
And
Mm.
society don't want us to be whole. They want us to be broken. They just
Yeah.
do, man. Because uh, if I'm broken, if I'm broken, I want you broken too.
Right.
I don't want
Oh,
you fixed.
But I
Because
mean,
if you fix, you may see something in me that turns you off.
right. But I mean, you said something big right there. It's like they want you broken. But
Hmm.
as if the head of the house is broken, then how's the house ever gonna actually stand? You know,
Yeah,
our predecessors, our ancestors, our big mamas, a lot of them were taught in a different age where, we had strength, we had the history, and now these days we don't even know our next of kin, and they stay right around the block. You know,
yeah,
like I had a aunt, man, and she could tell you all the way back to when my family came across and were freed. Where
mm,
it's like, man, I didn't know that most of my family was breeding. When I say breeding, everybody was having 10 kids. They was
yeah,
having 10 kids. They was breeding. And they were able to go ahead and tell me this cousin, this cousin, this cousin,
mm,
these people, your great 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 uncle, your great great, all these people, they were able to chase that lineage back. But now
yeah,
it's just like, man, we don't have that pride in where we come from, and we don't have the heads as like the men standing up and saying that, what, it starts with me, you know,
yeah,
and it doesn't matter that we fell off. It's like, who's gonna pick it up? That's where we're at now, because we know
yeah,
there is a
yeah.
break in how it used to be. We
yeah,
all recognize that. I believe we are the generation that believes that we miss the big mamas, we miss Papa, we miss all those people,
yeah,
those elders. We know that. And now we're
yeah,
looking at it like there's a divide in this generation now and our generation, and they don't understand what's missing, that gap, you know.
yeah,
And I
I
think
think
this
there's
is
a
one
lot
of
of factors that come into play there, and it's probably a whole different podcast. But the long and short of it is like, you got to think about we're in our 40s, you know what I mean? Our
Mhm.
parents and grandparents, like my mom was born when they were still referring to, black people as colored, where there was
yeah,
still segregation. You know,
Yep.
my great grandfather went to the movies with Dr. Martin Luther King when they were still fighting for the
Wow.
things that we take for granted right now. So
Amen.
you think about my great grandfather and my great grandma when they were literally raising 12 kids in a 2-bedroom shotgun house. You
Mhm.
Mm.
know, you didn't get to have a lot of that. They didn't have anything to keep for themselves but their history. They were
Yeah.
still close
Ooh,
enough to slavery
that's
at that
good.
point to where they had nothing but I mean, our family, you know, we've talked about this on the podcast before and just in general, like my father's side of the family, we're the first free slave family to ever settle in Leavenworth. And if you pull any of the
Mm.
census, my great grandfather's parents are always listed as the first family on the census back in,
Wow.
you know, that time. And you know, Leavenworth was created or whatever, founded or whatever in the 1800s. We have a museum, we have all kinds of stuff. If it wasn't for that museum, to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of us wouldn't even know, and I include myself in this,
Mm.
we wouldn't know the history of our family because of that. But in that same breath, Mike, my husband, played football with this guy for 5 years, and I had no idea that we were cousins until we had a
Wow.
family reunion.
Mm.
And
Wow.
so,
We
they
can't
I
say nothing
think
about
Wow.
family reunions.
no, but my point
That's
is like
crazy.
but you know, like just like the Hawaiian side, you know, both my grandmothers are Hawaiian. You go to
Mhm.
Hawaii and there's some type of link between our two families, but my mom's side and my dad's side, but you know, you got to do a lot of digging because back in Hawaii that it was a whole different world back then. You know,
Mm.
Mhm.
the natives back then and how they did family was is totally different. Like it's like a foreign country when you compare it to how they do things stateside. You understand what
Mm.
I'm saying? So, like, I think one of the biggest things and why people lost that was because our elders, Big Mama and them, they were in a state where they were still owed 40 acres and a mule. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? They
Yeah.
appreciated that. They valued that because they knew what they weren't able to do. They
Mm.
knew they weren't able to look at Rosa Parks. That really wasn't that long ago. Martin
Yeah.
Luther King wasn't that long ago. None of these the Lynch letter we
That's
talked about
crazy.
kind of before that,
Yeah.
like, that's 400 years on how to break a slave. And 400 years later, that's exactly what happened. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that people but this generation now, the big mamas are our age.
So, hold on
That's
just a
true.
second.
That's true. That's good.
So I got some people over here on my Facebook
Yeah, because
That's
we can't
sad, but
see
that's
any of
true.
that. It is. This is
asking
very unfortunate.
what the hell we talking about. And
We're talking about a
there's
little
a
bit of
lot
everything.
there's a lot of stuff we're talking about, and I understand it may be a cultural divide, but we're just talking about a lot of things that have changed in our family dynamics. And that's basically what it's going
In
from
generational, yeah.
in generationals from our
Yeah.
grandparents or great grandparents. That's what we're talking about. But you
Yeah.
know, we're also
Mm.
talking about how the man, the father figure, uh, is important, is paramount to have that model there to actually be that head, that spearhead, that protector, that umbrella, whatever you want to call him. He needs to be there, and he needs to be 100%. Because if a man is not 100% and lacking, a lot of the
Hmm.
other stuff is going to go ahead and fall to the wayside too. And I think that's
Yeah.
where a lot of families, a lot of children, you know, end up needing people like Andre because they never had that father figure there to establish what it's supposed to be like or have that example.
And
So for
we
us, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna add to what he was saying. Like one of the
Yeah.
things I think that, and we kind of touched on this, obviously in the green room when David was trying to podcast before the podcast.
Yeah.
But like, you know,
My
when
bad.
I had
My
mentioned
bad.
earlier about sometimes with my husband, I have to double back on stuff with him, and the reason why I
Yeah.
have to double back on stuff is because I know that when he steps outside of this house, he's got to be Stephen or Mike the man. You know,
Hmm.
but if he's got something that's troubling him, he cannot be Stephen the broken man out there when he's, you know, working or whatever else he's doing. He has to be able to be that with me.
Yeah.
And I can't expect him to just be always like he's inhuman. Like for instance, I mentioned my grandfather. Like I always knew my grandma was strong, because she was always doing stuff. My grandfathers were both very soft spoken, but when they needed to speak, they didn't have to. It was done before they even said anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the beauties of that is I look at my marriage now and I think to myself, how many times did my grandfather have to step into the room with my grandma and shut the door and just break down for a minute? And that was his safe space. So I had to remember that with my husband, but that was one of the reasons why I was excited about this is because coming from a man's perspective, y'all may have that mindset to where you can't just have a safe space anywhere, and you're providing that man to man
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the
Mhm.
community.
yeah. And it's not
And
easy either. It's not easy to get men to come in to talk to me about it. It take such a long time to get a man to open
Mm,
up to me. And I had to be, and so when it comes to trust with man, I won't break it. Like when I talk to people, I tell people, I like, hey man, listen, don't play these, man. I don't play them games. Don't do that to them. Do not play them.
Mhm.
Because once I earn his trust, I'm not gonna break it because it
mm,
took me too long to earn it. And so for us at Dads Against Crime, the way that I look at it is I look at it from a biblical standpoint. When God when God created his creation in 6 days, he created man. He looked at everything and said, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good, this is good. He created man and he said, it's not good for man to be alone. That's
Mm.
what he said. And
Right.
so then he went and he created Eve. And then once he created Eve, he created an order. That ordership and submission is God's the head, then it's Christ, then it's man, then it's woman, then it's children. That's the way that God created it. When women look at submission, they look at submission as if they compare it to being valuable. That's not the way God sees it. God is not saying that a man is more valuable than a woman, but it's just like the military. It's an order of commandment. It's all about order. So
mm,
God brings that order over the woman through her husband, and then bring that order over the children from their mother. But in the garden, what happened was God, he also put that order over all the beasts of the field. But when you look at the tree, when you look at what happened in the garden, the order was broken. Yet here go the beasts of the fields trying to have order over the woman and the man. Once the woman, once the woman gave in, she gave to them. She lost her order over the beast. And then once the man gave in, he lost his order over the woman. And that's where it was broken at. Men are created to be leaders, whether we want to be or not. God bestowed that leadership upon us, it's ours, and God
mm,
bestowed it to a woman has to be submissive. Once that chain got broken, now it's broken, and now we got women wanting to be leaders of the household. We got women wanting to be the one over the man, but God said it'll never work like that, and it doesn't. And we have proof throughout history that shows that we're not saying that women can't be leaders, but we're saying a woman can't be a leader over a man because that's not the way that God ordained it. Just like a man can't be leader over Christ, that order wouldn't work, right? Uh, and so when we go into these relationships where the woman is the predominant one, where and then we base leadership off of funding. Oh, if the woman brings in more money, she automatically qualified to be leader. No, she's not, because God never ordained her to be that. Even if she make more money, it was a time where I wasn't working. I got laid off, and my wife was working, and I was looking for a job for 6 months, and my wife still submitted to my leadership, and she still respected me, and she still listened to everything that I was saying because she understood that I was a leader of the house even when I wasn't working. And so for me, we focus on, when you look at the nonprofits in Kansas City, let me give you a true statistic. There are 3,000 nonprofits in Kansas City, Missouri alone. 2,999 cater towards women and children. And then you got some that cater towards the homeless. Most of these nonprofits cater to women and children. But when we look at the inner city is still destroyed. It's still ran down, right? So the
mm,
problem the problem is not more nonprofits that cater towards women and children. Men are the one who create who do the most violent crime. When we talk about murder, when we talk about kidnapping, theft, men do that at a higher rate, uh, according to the FBI. Uh, Also, according to the FBI, the number one reason for crime is lack of employment. That's according to the FBI. They just put that out last time. It was in 2020, right before I started. They said that that was the number one, or 2021. They said that that was the number one reason for crime. So if my problem is not women or children, then evidently my problem is man. So if my problem is man, I don't have to worry about the woman or the child. I just need to fix him. Once I fix him, he's gonna go back and make it right with his wife or with his girlfriend, and he's going to fix that broken relationship between his child. We're training him how to be a man. Now he might not be a godly man. He might not believe in the Lord, but we still are training him how to be a man, how to stand up, how to take responsibility. And the first rule of that is getting his emotions in order. He
Mm.
has to get them in check. He has to know. He has to be able to sit down and articulate himself and what he's feeling
Mm-hmm.
properly to anybody, and he has to know how to deal with his emotions. You can't take a man who don't know how to deal with his emotions and stick him in a job. You do that, he's only gonna get fired. So the
Exactly.
first state is fixing
Mhm.
his mind state and saying, bro, you got to understand that it's okay to have emotions and emotions are good. Ain't nothing wrong with emotions. It's okay to be mad, upset. You just got to know you just can't respond the way you would normally respond, because America's only want men to respond. The only emotion they
Mhm.
want us to have is anger. And
Mm-hmm.
then when we do get mad and we respond in violence, they say, oh, look at him, that thug, that criminal, X, Y, and Z. But they never stop to think that, hey, he could be dealing with something mentally. Because
Mm-hmm.
from youth, we are told we are just as emotional as women are. The only
Yeah.
difference is a woman from youth is told, "Hey, baby, express your emotions. Tell us how you feeling." That little boy who come up to you crying, saying, "Oh, mommy, that what that mama or that daddy tell her? Boy, shut up and suck it up. You a boy. Boys don't
Mm-hmm.
cry. Boys don't do this. Boys don't do that." This is a true story. I was at the I was at the barbershop with
Mm-hmm.
my son,
Right.
and the girl cut my hair, but she had clippers and they was biting. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, my son is like 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and she put these clippers and they biting them and they hurting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a older woman is in the back, and she hear my son crying, and I'm like, I'm just gonna let him. He can express himself. She
Mm-hmm.
look at my son and tell my son, "You a little boy. Little boys ain't supposed to be crying." So I stood up right there in the middle of that and I said, "Nah." I said, "It's okay. Real men cry. If something hurt you, you can shed your tears. You can cry. But imagine if I would have never stood up for my son and just let that slide. Then
Right.
he would have
Right.
bottled his emotions as well. Nah,
Push
I
that
am
mess
gonna cry."
down.
Yeah.
A-
And
And I
so for
think,
me,
Yeah.
and
yeah, go ahead.
I like to say that, man. You saying that right there is the reason why I think a lot of young men, older men, are just running around just angry for no reason, man. Like
Yeah,
junkyard dogs, man, just ready,
yeah.
on ready just for no reason because they never had a outlet to to
Mm-mm.
to vent, to get that mess off their chest. So it's just like, dude,
Yeah,
your anxieties is on 10. Your
yeah,
mind is already rocking and rolling because you don't know what's gonna happen next because you
yeah,
already got stuff popping off and you
yeah.
just looking for something to happen. It's like
Yep.
a lot of things happen. Like with good people, it just takes one stupid decision,
Yeah,
and that one
Mm.
decision, man, where you just allow your emotions to get the best of you could be the last decision you make,
yeah,
because your freedoms could be getting taken away, or even worse, your life, because you were
yeah.
too out of touch, and nobody ever taught you anything different, and
Exactly.
Well, and that's when you talk about nobody ever taught you. A lot of times, that's what you have to take into consideration.
Yes.
What you are breeds your offspring. Broken
Mhm.
breeds
Come on
broken.
now.
Dysfunction breeds
Yeah,
dysfunction.
yeah,
So when you have a situation like that, if you think about it, you think about, like, you watch these movies, and I hate to put it like, but I'm serious. You watch these movies, like, with the dad beating the mama. A lot of
Hmm.
times you'll hear them say, I watched my dad beat my mom because, and this is how they loved each other. That's how,
Hmm.
Yeah,
a lot of times that's where it came from. You breed what you are. So if you are broken, like you said,
yeah,
when you said just a few minutes ago, you got to go back and help them heal and help them be a man so that they can go back and fix their girlfriend, or, fix the family with the girlfriend and the wife or whatever. It
yeah,
it starts from the head down, and a lot of
yeah,
a huge misconception, and I had to learn this, and I'm still learning this, but I had to learn this and really step aside, is that, especially our generation and the ones beyond us, when you use the word submissive, it is
yeah,
so misunderstood.
yes,
People think submissive means boss you around, and I always had a
Hmm.
motto growing up. I
yeah,
run my house, I don't run around it. That was always
mm,
my motto. You didn't make
Hmm.
more money than me, and this was not my husband, this is before. Like, you
yeah,
don't tell me what to do. But it came from me being a daddy's girl, and my dad, you said this earlier too, set an example and a precedence. My dad was a womanizer, period.
yeah,
He'll tell you, anybody that's watching this that knows him will tell you. But one thing my dad always did, because I was his baby, was he would always say, "Don't ever let a man do you like this. Don't ever
mm,
let a man do you like this, because this is not how it should be." So instead
yeah,
of him allowing me to see this and seeing, and absorbing that, what he ended up doing is making me cutthroat, to where I didn't
yeah,
I didn't have a value or appreciation for a man. I didn't really
yeah,
care. Like, I don't care what you're talking about. You don't move me,
yeah,
So it was like that submissive word to me was like, I'm not your pet, I
yeah,
had to really hone down on what that truly meant, and the value of it is, it's submissive. And you can correct me if I'm wrong when we get into a biblical sense, but to me it is, my job is to always support my husband. Allow him
Um,
to be the forefront and allow him to do what needs to be done. And I wouldn't say his assistant, but I am his
I
support.
mean, but
I am his
basically,
backbone,
you his
like,
helper, you his
I mean,
helper.
yeah.
I mean, from the biblical sense, I mean, you are actually saying exactly what it is. You
Yeah,
Yeah,
are a
but it's
helpmeet.
misunderstood.
No,
That's
yeah,
what I'm
you are
saying.
a helpmeet. You help to meet
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
need.
yeah. Okay, okay, I
yeah,
get what
That's exactly what it is. And what people get misconstrued is what God's way of submission is and what man's way of submission is. When we think
mm,
about submission, you submitting as master slave type relationship,
yeah.
and that's not
yeah,
it. That's
yeah,
not it.
That's what people think, and it's a
yeah,
pride thing too. It is
Yeah, it's
definitely a
it's a
yeah,
pride thing.
pride thing
I will
because
say that.
yeah,
everybody thinks, hey, when you talking to me like you need to submit, you trying to be a dictator to me, and that's
yeah,
automatically it's like a red flag goes up, and everybody's like, no, I'm
Mm,
contradicting everything you saying right now because you telling me submit. But a lot of times, if you submit underneath, you've been submitting all your life and you don't even know it.
and
It's
don't
yeah,
like
realize it.
when
Mhm.
you went to school and you were learning from a teacher, you were submitting to his tutelage. His
yeah,
knowledge was becoming your knowledge. You submit because you know he got something you need.
yeah,
And that's how it is in a relationship. That person
Yeah.
that you're in a relationship with, they have something you need. It may not be the financial thing, but it could be an emotional thing because you guys come together and it's like you balance each other out. And a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize that submission thing is huge, especially in a Christian's life. You got to learn how to submit because how
yeah,
can you lead and you don't know how to follow? You know?
yeah.
There you go.
Well,
There
well,
you go. And
when we talk about submission, though, we gotta. I know why that word is looked at so hard. It's looked at so hard from the way we read it in the American dictionary. But
Mhm.
when submission is used in the Greek term, it's not used as that. It's just used as order. Like when you take a
hierarchy.
lieutenant and a chart and a sergeant,
Mhm.
it's an order. Like when you look at it, just look at submission, just like the army. A woman would go to a job and submit to a man that she don't know, but then won't come home and submit to her husband. How
Mm,
does that make sense? A woman would go to a job and go get coffee for another man, and then won't come home and make dinner for her own husband. How does that make sense? So you're willing to submit to somebody else, but you're not willing to submit to the one who you gave your heart to, who the
Mm,
one who you're supposed to submit to, who's supposed to guide you and protect you financially, spiritually, physically. The Bible tells a man that he is to love a woman as Christ loved the church, even unto death, or is a man to love his wife. So that means I should be willing to go to the stake for my wife. That means
Mm,
I'm jumping in front of a gun for my wife.
mm.
That's what the
Okay.
Bible means when it says to love her as Christ loved the church. Now, once I love my wife as Christ loved the church, she will willingly submit to that. Not all women don't, because the standard to look at a woman to see if she's going to be submissive is, do she submit to God and do she submit to her father? If she don't submit to those two, she's not going to submit to you,
Mhm. Wait a
because
minute.
submission has to be something that's a part of her. You can't if
Mm,
you can't force her. You can't force a woman to submit to you. It just
mm,
never will work. She has to willingly submit to you. That's what
mm,
we got to understand. People who submit do it willingly. Christians willingly submit to the Spirit, willingly admit to Christ. They're not forced to. You see what I'm saying?
mm,
yeah,
So,
that but
so he can't expect his wife. He can't force his. If he forces his wife to submit to him, then that's borderline abusive, where he's forcing her by force. That's not true leadership.
mm,
That's not true leadership, because the people always submit to the king.
mm.
And when the king, and then if they do submit to the king through violence, his kingdom never lasts. Somebody in his own country always kills the king when he
Mm.
do it by violence. But
Right.
King David ruled until he died, because the people submitted to King David out of love.
willingly
And
because they
so
love.
a wife will submit to her husband out of love.
You
Man.
know, wait, let me just I know
Uh,
you were telling like true story, true story, true story.
Yeah,
When you say that, I had to like I told you, I'm still in the learning process with certain things.
yeah.
Most of it I'm good though, but me and my husband, tomorrow we celebrate 9 years of marriage, but we've been
Congratulations.
together almost 15. Thank you. And
Wow.
so there's a few things that come into play with our relationship, and David can attest to it. Everybody can because we're interesting to say the least. But my husband is younger than me, and I had a lot more life experiences at the time that we ended up getting together. So when he would try to boss me around, I would always say, you're not my daddy. You're not my daddy."
Yeah.
And so my husband, it was a running joke. He started saying, "I'm not your daddy. I'm the next best thing." Right. So then
Mm,
my dad and him are real tight. So my dad would call
yeah.
and be like, "This is your daddy, not the next best thing." So it became a joke in my family because my husband says that all the time. But this is when I had to come in and things started to be put into perspective for me.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I grew up in a AME church with my family.
Mhm.
Um, and we were forced, like you said, we were forced to go to church every Sunday. We were forced to do this stuff. So it became to the point where it was never that I did not believe in God. It was always that I did not want to go to church. Right.
Mm,
My husband had a different experience. And I remember I was away working for about 8 months and I just kept praying because I just was like, if you're gonna show me who you are, God, I need you to show me by moving him. And he did it,
mm,
like, right in front of my face. I prayed every day, and he did it right in front of my face, and it was so interesting to me, and we started going to a church, but we couldn't just go to any church. We had to go to a church because we would go to one church where he was getting his spirit fed, but I wasn't. Then we went to another
mm,
one where I felt like I got my spirit fed, but he wasn't. Then we found one
mm,
where we both were able to get our spirit fed, and
mm.
it was a learning experience.
Yeah.
So by the time we got married, we were already, you know, into learning more about how we were supposed to be stronger as a couple. Well, at the time, I've I gave you the rundown because there's a point to this. We had already been together for 5 years. Me and his mom had a great relationship. There
Yeah.
was and Steph, don't kill me. There was a small time at the very beginning of our marriage, and we also had a kid at the same time. So there was a small little time that me and his mom kind of had a riff. Now, the problem was that whenever his mom would say anything, because she's super tight knit with her kids, very, very
Mhm.
tight knit, which I don't blame her because I'm the same way with my family. But whenever she would say anything, me and him would have conversations, and I'd be like, "How come you don't say anything?" He'd be like, "'Cause my mama is my mama, whatever." He would never, what I felt like, stand up for me. When we got married, it was like a light switch. Something happened,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't hesitate. But the thing was, is he didn't glorify it. He didn't glorify to me what he had, how he had addressed the situation with his mom. So when he came back to me and I was like, rah rah, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, blah blah blah, and he was like, okay, he walked away, and later on I found out on my own accord that he did actually stand up for me. And then when I asked him about it, his response was, when we got married, Pastor read that scripture to us, and what did he say? I have to leave my mother and father and be
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm,
husband.
Mm-hmm.
And when he said that, it was like, now here I am upset about trying to allow you to lead me, but you were quick to just be like, all right, this is my role. So I had to learn in that moment, and that was really a pivotal moment for me as a wife. I had to
Yeah.
learn in that moment that this man just gave up, and he didn't give up his mom. We love her to death. She's still around, obviously, but he literally was willing to change his entire perspective to make sure I was protected over the woman that gave birth to him, because that was what he was supposed to do and what we were being taught and he was learning as a man and as a man of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's so interesting, because here I am putting up so much fuss about, you're not gonna run me in this or whatever. And that was just a really pivotal moment, because had he not done that, we probably would be 50-50 in my eyes right now. But we're
mm.
not 50-50. He is the leader of our
Yeah.
household. He's the king of the castle. Whatever daddy says, daddy gets, is how it goes. But you know, I thought that was interesting that you, just to kind of touch on all the points that you say, is because that was
Yeah.
one of my issues when it came to submission. Like, you're not my daddy, but in reality, you know, you are the leader, and I have to allow you to be a leader. I can't lead this, because if somebody
Man,
come in the front door, I can't protect. Imma
but you
come
Yeah.
know
get you,
what?
Yeah.
you know? So
But you,
it's like,
Tish, you
sorry.
just actually just stepped on a landmine right there. You know that,
I
right?
know. I know.
Because by you just saying that, you said you had to allow him. And that's the biggest thing that, as we
Mm-hmm.
get to close this segment, is this letting women know that you got to give a place for a man to grow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for him to lead, because this could be a follow-up to this conversation, as far as like single women that have to do mother and father roles, because when a
Yeah.
man comes into their life, he doesn't have a place, because the woman is being the alpha also,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a clashing of personalities then, because the man is like, I'm trying to go ahead and do for you, but you acting like you don't need me, so
You
why am
don't
I
let
here?
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't let
You
me.
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that's that
But
that's that dynamic. Go ahead.
yeah. But it really also, it has to depend on that man's mental state as well, right?
Mm.
Because again, if he comes in mentally messed up with his emotions all over the place, and he tries to lead, he's going to fail, and he's going to get that pushback from that woman, right? But if his
Mm,
mind is here, right, okay, so let me give y'all a real quick story. Once I got went through therapy for a whole year, I met my wife. Me and my wife got together. This is something new for my wife. It was new for me. I was expressing my emotions. My wife didn't know what to deal with that. She didn't know how to
mm,
deal with that. I was like,
Mm.
dang. When she did something, I would set her down like, dang, that really hurt my feelings. Now let me tell you why it hurt me. And she used to tell me, she was like, dang, you sensitive. I ain't never been with no man that this sensitive.
mm,
That's how my wife used to talk. And and of course this before we got married, but it took her a while to realize that I'm in control of my emotions. Like, I know how to express myself. She never been with a man that can sit down and
Mm.
articulate his emotion. It took therapy for me to do that. And now
mm.
she didn't know how to do with it because she never been with a man that expresses himself at all. So
Right.
for my wife, hearing a man say, hey, that broke my heart, or that made me sad, or my wife seen I cry more than my wife. My wife never experienced that before. So it took my wife a while to get used to it. And now my wife, she don't say sensitive no more. And so now it's normal. And so it's the same way with my daughters now that's in my household. They see their dad expressing emotion daily. My
Mm,
son, he expresses himself and articulate himself very well to be young. And I look
mm.
at that and I say, dang, that's healthy. So now my
Yeah.
son's gonna know how to do that. So now when we get to a man who don't know how to do that, and he comes into a relationship, the first thing that man try to lead by is by force. He try to
Mm.
force her to be submissive, and she's not going to do it because you got to understand that
Mm.
black woman has been going through the same thing that black man had been going through. She may not get it as hard as him, but our black queens, by no means, when they walk out that front door, they walk onto a different world too. They don't get treated as harshly as us, but they still get treated harshly. So
Mhm.
her guard is already up. So now, if a man don't come in leading with sensitivity, then she's going to rebel against that. So
Mhm.
he has to make her submit in love, not by force. And that's why you get the clash, because it's like, I'm a man, you gotta listen, you gotta do what I say. First of all, she only supposed to be submissive. The Bible says be submissive to your husband, not to a boyfriend. The Bible tells a
Say
woman
that
to be
again.
submissive to her husband, not
Say it
to a
again.
boyfriend. In fact, the
Say
Bible
it.
don't even make no distinguish between boyfriends and husbands. The Lord is like, he don't even acknowledge boyfriends
Recognize,
or
right.
girlfriends in the Bible. He don't
Mm.
recognize that. He only recognizes husband and wife. Every passage tell a husband to
Mm.
love his wife. Every passage tell the husband to be the wife to be submissive to her husband. So she don't have to be submissive to her boyfriend. She does, but she does have to be submissive to her husband, whether he's a godly man or not, because God still put leadership up under him. It's just like when women say, "Oh, then," because we're in America, women always say crazy stuff. Well, what if my father? No, the Bible says that she has to be submissive to a man's leadership. She has to, and you have to be submissive to your parents as well. Whether your parents are godly or not, you still got to be submissive to them. Because if you didn't, the Bible says that that's punishable by death in the
Mm.
Old Testament. Disobedient to a parent is punishable by death. So the Bible says we have to be submissive to our parent. So if she ain't submissive to her parent, she's not going to be submissive to you. It's
Mm.
not in her DNA. And then you have to leave that woman alone
Mhm.
until God touches her heart. If God don't touch her heart, she ain't going to be submissive. So if she can't submit herself to God, she can't submit herself to her father, she can't submit herself to you. But
Mm.
at the same time, if you come in and you trying to be the rah, you trying to be the same dude that you is on the street, taking stuff by force,
Mm.
that work with men. That don't
Mhm.
work with women. You know what I'm saying? It work with men. It does not work with women. You just get pushback. And she'll cuss you out
Right,
and call you everything under the sun. But if you
man.
get her with love, she will. So for the man, we gotta fix him. We gotta fix him.
Yes.
If we want our streets and our community to be better, we have to fix our man. It's a dire need that we fix his mental state. Otherwise, we get a bunch of men, because men are trained to think logically. That's that when we got other men around, those men who we learn from are men who think logically. But what happens is men are removed out of the relationship, and then it's just a woman. And so now a woman can raise a boy, but she can't turn a boy into a man. Only a man can do that. Woman can't do that. Women are emotional creatures. That's the way God created them. They just are. So when you take a woman and have an emotional creature raise a
Mm.
logical creature, all he is more emotional. That's all he is. So and then he don't know how to deal with them emotions. So all only thing that he does is he act out on them emotions, and most of the time that's violence. And like you said, David, that ends in death or it ends in the penitentiary. I got a brother friend to get out in June, been locked up for 18 years over an act of emotion.
Mhm.
When we started off in the streets, it was 26 of us. Know how many of us left? Just
How
four
many?
of us. Four of us. Rest of them died. Death, homicide. Most of their murders still ain't been solved. But it's
Mm.
like you
Mm.
said, when you act off of emotions, those are results that you get, David, and you didn't lie. So it's vital that we fix our man. If we don't fix our man, we're gonna have broken homes, and we're gonna have homes with single mothers, and those single mothers are gonna raise emotional boys. Those emotional boys are gonna grow up, act in violence. They're gonna go out there do something stupid, and the cycle repeats itself.
Yeah.
Man, Andre, man, I really appreciate you
Listen.
taking the time out, man.
Just
And
Yeah,
on
we
here
definitely
preaching.
we definitely
sorry about
gotta
that. Oh,
No,
Oh
you're
no,
fine.
no,
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 that no,
no,
no, no, no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no,
no, no.
no, boy.
That was actually perfect.
We
I feel like we needed more time, so we're gonna have to. I know
yeah.
your time is valuable. We might have to run this one back because I want like we yeah we didn't even scratch the surface on some of the things that we kind of touched on
yeah,
in the green room
No.
when David was trying to podcast
yeah.
pre-podcast.
Hey, look,
Well,
look, man. I
well,
was
like I
excited.
said,
I was so
yeah,
excited to have him on, man. I can't even,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, David.
Well,
You
express.
know what? He was so
like I said,
excited.
the guy
I
give
didn't
me
even
discernment.
introduce myself.
The
I'm
Lord give
Tish,
me
by the way.
discernment.
Nice to meet
Yeah,
you.
how you doing, Tish? But now the Lord give me discernment, and so I always felt a good spirit about David. So when bro called me, he called me at the
Mm,
last minute. I'm like, I'm gonna move this around. I'm gonna make it happen for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when he
Hey,
hit me, when he hit me, it took me a while to respond back because I was moving some stuff around. I was like, yeah, for this brother, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And that's just like if it was somebody else, honestly, I would have been like, hey, look, I'm about to have to charge you. I'm about to have to charge you 150 an hour with a
mhm,
2 hour minimum. So,
mhm,
but with David, nah, it's not like that. It's like I feel bruh's spirit, so it's like, nah, he cool people. So, and then he knows some people that I'm really cool with. And the thing about me is that when I'm cool with somebody, uh, and they really my people,
mm,
then they people are my people, And if I come through for them, I'm gonna come through for them, And LeVar Fletcher, which is a mutual friend of both of our LeVar, that's
mhm.
my brother. I'm saying I love that boy to
yeah.
death, and so anybody cool with my people, I'm cool with them. So yeah, so whenever you call me again, David, we gonna make it happen, brother.
And
Hey,
the funny thing is I say that about David all the time. I've known David for many years and we started by doing music together and you know David I started bringing him around my family cuz I had always known him, but this is how I tell my husband all the time like how he knew David was going to be a solid dude. I went over to David's house and we hadn't seen each other for a long time and I said we're going to do some music, but it was late. It was
Hmm.
real late and I drove over there and as soon as I pulled up, David was like, "Hey, call your husband, let him know you here." And I was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, yeah, no, we good." He's like, "No, call your husband, let him know you're here." So I FaceTimed him. Next thing you know, my brother is had called about the Super Bowl and David follows my brother and he was like, "Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah." Now all of a sudden now David's in the in crowd and I'm out. I'm out. So him and my brothers they
yeah,
go bowling and stuff. I'm not in the in crowd anymore. But he's always had like that's what I was telling him. Like he's one of the one people that I know that it doesn't matter he always wants the best for everybody and
yeah,
genuine love for everybody and support for everybody because he's just like that. And he doesn't care if like you doing barbecue and DJing and he's doing barbecue and DJ, he's still gonna help you and be solid. Be like, this is what helps me because that's just the
yeah,
type of person he is. He's a really solid dude, and I like he needs give you your flowers, David, because
I
yeah,
he do be
appreciate
coming
it.
through. But
yeah.
I think I froze up over here. So
you probably did because all we see is your shiny forehead.
Mhm, mhm.
That's
it
it.
happens. It happens. I
But
appreciate that, man.
Andre, I
Both of
really
y'all.
appreciate you because I was
Absolutely.
looking forward to this when he texted me earlier and we were talking about it. But I was
Yes.
kind of like, wait a minute, is this like a guy's moment? Am I just gonna be the
There we
oddball
go.
here? And he was like, no, I think you could learn from this, like, you know. But
Yeah.
I at first I was like kind of cocky about it. I was like, okay, David. But to be honest, I really did, and it really does put things in perspective because as a wife we do get so complacent in our marriages. We're used to the man that we're married to, and sometimes we
Yeah.
may overlook certain things. And like you said, you may know things but not realize them. Like
Yep.
there's a whole difference when you know something and I had to, we have a son and our son is about to be 9 and my husband, sometimes he might be emotional, but at the same token, I have to be like, I'm really emotional when it comes to him and my son getting, you know, into it or something, or if he's scolding my
Yeah.
son or parenting him is what I should say. I
Yep.
have to be the one to step back and be like, let him parent him because if he doesn't, the
Yeah.
streets will. So
Exactly. And you
it's a,
got you gotta let your husband uh be his father. And even
oh
even if
yeah,
it tough love is not bad love. Like we look at love and we say, oh, love's not supposed to hurt, love not supposed to do this, love not supposed to do that. But actually, love hurts, and it hurts
oh
so
yeah,
bad that
yeah,
Christ died. Like the cross was not a pleasant death. but
No.
love sent him to the cross, right? Because he loved us, and so he wanted to, but it was not pleasant for him to go there. So love does
Mm.
hurt, and that's what it is in relationships. It's gonna hurt. Like we're gonna do stuff. We're not saying like one would cheat, but we're saying that you know, like my wife calling me sensitive when I just learned to express myself. That really hurt me.
That
You
could
know,
have started, yeah.
yeah,
Oh
that
yeah,
hurt it.
yeah.
But it
You
didn't
know,
But I
break you,
mean,
yeah.
it
but
didn't, but it
to
hurt it.
have
You know,
the
because I
Yeah.
was like,
No, no,
dang.
I'm
You know,
sorry, I'm
yeah.
not trying to downplay it. What I
no,
guess what I
No,
put
no,
my
I get what you're
mindset is
saying.
like, it
but to
didn't break
have
y'all
that
because
that
you both
mental.
learned from that.
Exactly,
You both
exactly. And I
learned that
think,
she learned how to have a different type of man. You learned how to be a different type of man, and y'all like I bet
come
you
on
merged
now,
way better
come
than
on
Right,
now.
right.
yeah. You merged way
Yeah,
better than
see,
anybody else before. So it's like, yeah, that was a lesson in both of y'all.
exactly, exactly. And you know, it's not just you as being that mother. Like my wife does that too. She don't do it anymore, but my wife used to do that too with my girls, with my son. I'd be trying to chastise them, and she would step in like she'd just throw on that cake, you know what I'm saying? Just throw it on.
Mhm.
Here come
Yeah.
mama to the rescue. And I had to
He
say,
says that too.
you
That's
know,
what he says.
yeah. And I
My
had to say,
husband.
no, don't do that. Like, and I had to literally one time really raise my voice at my wife and say, honey, you can't do that. When I'm disciplining them, you cannot do that. The way you discipline them, I don't disagree with. I encourage you. I support you. So when you see me disciplining them, when you see me whooping them, just know it took a lot for me to whoop my kids. So like it'd be like 4 or 5 months it build up. Then I grab that belt and butts friend to get tore up. And my wife, she used to have a problem with that. She said, "Well, I didn't come from a background where we got whooped." I said, "Okay, but I did. I'm not. I got a number in my head. That's how many times I spank my kids. It's normally no more than five. I'm gonna hit them
Mm.
5 times. That's it. Shut that door. And I know. And I never discipline my kids when I'm upset because you stand the chance to hurt your kids when you angry. So I will wait till
Mm.
I calm down, and then I would discipline them. And after I discipline them, they will come in or I will come in and they'll be like, "Why did you whoop me?" And then I would say, "Hey, this is why you got to whoop it." But I never do it in anger because you can hurt your child disciplining them in anger. So you got to step back and say, "Let me calm down before I go into this room and try to handle my child." Even if I got to wait till the next morning, I say, "Hey, you know you're going to get a whooping in the morning, right?" I'll laugh it out. And in
That's
the
the
morning,
worst ones too, the ones you
yeah.
gotta sit
And
on and
Hmm.
marinate.
you
That's
know,
the
and in the
worst
morning, I'm
one.
opening that door with that belt. Come on, get over here, get a whooping. Let's do it quick. It's gonna be over. So you ain't the only one that do that. But uh,
Yeah,
the mother don't love the child more than the father does. We just love in different ways,
in
but
different ways, yeah.
our love is still equal. Our love
Yeah,
is
Right.
still equal.
and
So
you
I'm sorry to cut you off, man.
Yes.
no, you're
But
not.
you know,
No, you're not.
Tish was the one that told me, "Dave, tonight we
I did,
stopping
but
at 8 o'clock."
that was before we
Oh
got to
yeah.
that's
Uh
before
huh.
we got to talking. But
Uh-huh. No.
I just wanna say something. The amount of like I said, I've been with my husband almost 15 years, and we
Yes.
talk about everything from the very beginning. Like we were polar opposites, like kind of like you and your wife. Like I said, he's younger than me. I had already lived life, whereas he was just now. When he moved in, we got our first place together. That was his first place on his own outside of
Oh
college.
wow.
So we were in two
Mm,
different perspectives at that point of our life, and I had only dated street men that are in all of them are either dead or in prison. Not
yeah.
nothing to be pat on the back, but and I never wanted to get married. That was the other thing. Like there were so many things we were complete opposites, but from the very
Mm,
beginning, we said, "You know what? We're gonna have an all-in relationship. Everything's on the table, no matter how uncomfortable it will be. We always have to be able to communicate." That is
yeah.
has always been something very critical for us because even in some of the most trying times, we had to be very vulnerable. But I could tell you right now, without a shadow of a doubt, if it wouldn't have been him, I would have never been able to do what we do, and our marriage would not be successful. Like you and your wife, where you were saying like she had never been with this type of guy, and you had never been this type of guy. That could have been a detrimental point in your relationship when you guys were kind of like at odds in a way, not like negative at odds, but trying to find your pace and your path with each other. Like
Yes.
the most beautiful things can grow out of concrete.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? And I'm telling you, I told my husband this today. I was like, I honestly don't feel like I would have ever married anybody
mm,
else, and been able to be as happy as I am and content as I am with him. And so everything that you're saying, it helps not just a man that might be listening to the podcast, but it may help some women too that have misconceptions about what submissive means, or what the order of command, I guess, if you want to put it, the
yeah.
hierarchy, is, and the purpose of it, the intention of it, and just how things flourish when it comes to really like balancing and complementing,
Mm,
and your role is complementing or whatever it's supposed to be in that moment. So
yeah.
I really appreciate all of these nuggets that you dropped with us,
Mm,
Absolutely.
and David too,
yeah.
because David be trying to drop them little bombs on me too, and I'd be like, okay, David. No, I'm just kidding.
I
I
don't
love
know what you're
David. He
talking
knows
about.
it.
But
But
yeah, man, it's like again, man, I really appreciate you
we
making
do, we
time.
do.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate you making time because I know
Yeah.
you have so many things going on. You know, a lot of stuff in the background, and
Yeah.
Family time.
Yeah. They
I,
ready for me to get off.
Yes.
I'm
I
coming.
hear.
Hold on. Hold
We
on.
But one,
I'm still on the
definitely me
podcast.
too.
but one thing,
We're gonna let you go.
I want to let you know, man. Like if you need me, man, just reach out. I'll move stuff
Absolutely.
around and do what I need to do to make it happen, man.
And
Because
I will be happy to
Absolutely, brother.
it's
volunteer my services
it's
too,
been it's been a
because we
long
do
Appreciate
a
time.
that.
lot of different
It's been a
things.
long
So
time. You know, we've been trying to get stuff to go. You know, either I got stuff going on or I wasn't in that right headspace. I'll be honest with you, man. I had a lot of stuff going on, but you know what? I did what you did, man. I went and had therapy. I need more therapy.
Yeah.
I ain't even gonna lie. I could use some
mhm.
more therapy in my life because
Hey,
there's still
brother.
some things.
Hey, brother.
Still
We
some
offer it
things.
for free, brother. So
Yeah, man. I get what you.
you hit me up, man, and we'll get you as many sessions as you need, whether it's
Yeah.
6 months or for life, bro. We got you covered.
I appreciate that, bro, because
Yes,
you know
sir.
what? I want to be a better me. You know, this not just for myself, but everybody around me, man. Because just like Tish
Mm,
said, I touch a lot of people, man. And you know, I never will want to steer anybody wrong with, you know, or
Yeah.
not give somebody 100% of me. You know,
mhm.
Yeah.
if I'm not being the 100% authentic me, man, I disappear. And you can ask some people. It's like sometimes they'll see me and they be like, "Dave, where you been?" It's like, man, I've been working
Yeah.
on me trying to get back to where I
Mm.
was because I can't sit up here and smile in your face and act like everything is cool. You know, it works okay at work because they pay me, but I can't
Yeah.
do that to my family. I can't do that to my
Yeah.
friends, man. I fake the
Yeah.
funk when
Yeah.
I'm working, dog. I ain't even gonna front. So I put on a
Yeah.
song and a dance because I got to pay these bills. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the people that I love, it's like, look, man, I don't want to say nothing. I don't want to act like, you know, I don't care just because I'm just not being who I am, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you
That's
know,
so
Dave,
beautiful.
you got to get you some solid brothers around you, man, because, bro, uh, when you hold in your emotions, bro, it can get bad, bro. Like,
oh, trust me, man.
trust me, I seen so many dudes come through here within these 3 years, bro, and they shut down and they don't
Mhm.
express their emotions and they don't talk about it, bro. And it's some
I really appreciate you both, especially just
Yeah,
this moment right now.
it's
The
some sad
transparency
stories.
is a
Yeah,
is
yeah,
is
yeah. It's sad, man.
it's some
Man,
sad stories, bro. So don't.
mm,
I can see it right there in your eyes, man. That
Yeah,
you know, it's you been there. You've been there. I
yeah.
understand, man. And
yeah,
you know, I never really had anybody to talk to when like my father passed away, and that was the hardest thing to deal with is trying to grieve and then being on the outskirts during that time because I was going through the separation with my wife. That was like the beginning of that breakdown. So
yeah,
it was a lot of stuff going on. So it was just like I did not cry, and
yeah,
I tried to figure out what was wrong with me, and then like finally one day I just broke, you know, and I really didn't
yeah,
talk to anybody about it because it's just something that just happened. I was in the front room by myself, and I was just like, man, it's sad to be in a house that's supposed to be a house between you and your wife, and you feel so alone, you know.
yeah,
And that was the thing that just broke the camel's back, But
Mhm.
I dealt with it. I went through a couple sessions and stuff like that. But like I said, I got a lot more stuff that I need to address.
Yeah,
But
You
for
can't do it
sure.
on.
I ain't
You
gonna
know.
hold y'all
okay,
too long, bro.
no,
But I'm gonna
no,
say
No.
no,
this,
no.
bro. Listen, I ain't saying this. I ain't saying this for the podcast. This is who I am, bro. If you don't got my number, I'm gonna shoot you a message, through Messenger, bro, and I'm gonna give you my number, bro. Anytime you feeling like that, bro, you can call me, bro. It can be anytime, bro. I be needing people to lean on too. Like, I'm not saying I got it all together. I have weak moments too, but I
Hmm.
also got people. I also got other men that I lean on, bro. That I say, hey man, I'm not feeling well. Like, I'm not feeling good. Like, let me tell you what's
Right.
going on. And see, the
Hmm.
problem with men is we so used to helping people that we feel like if we get help or if we go seeking for help, people look at us crazy. But we
Right.
changing the trajectory of that, bro. Like, man, you
Hmm.
can call me anytime, bro. I don't care what time it is. My phone, I never cut my phone off. I always keep my phone on. I
Hmm.
buy phones and I gotta buy a phone every 2 years because it never goes off. You know what I'm saying? So,
Hmm.
Mm.
bro, for real, you just call me anytime, bro. We can go get something to eat. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
We can do a Zoom, bro. We can talk. If you don't feel like talking, we can text. Bro, I shoot you a text every day just to check on you and see how you doing, man, like I do everybody else, bro.
Hmm.
And that's how you build trust and that's how you build relationships, man. And
I
if you ain't got
appreciate it, bro.
nobody, bro, I'll be that person that you can call on, bro, for real. So it ain't for the cameras, man. You know, I'm gonna shoot you my
Yeah,
number, bro.
man. I appreciate it,
Yeah.
bro. I really
So
Yeah,
do.
for
before we
sure.
tap out, I just want to ask one thing, and this is just for everybody. I know that you said that you don't just work with anybody, but if somebody does want to reach out to you and maybe volunteer for a clinic or something you have going on, or any event that you may have, or see how they can work with your organization or get services from your organization. Do you guys have like a website or a contact format that you
Yeah.
use?
Uh, you just go to whether it's volunteers or whether they need the help that we provide. You just go to dadsagainstcrime.org, scroll all the way down to the bottom of the first page. If you're a client and you need therapy, employment services, you hit the intake form. If you're not, you just fill out the volunteer form. We'll reply within 24 hours, which I really don't know how long that's going to be right now because now I'm going through the process of hiring an assistant. So I might transfer. It might be a week or 2 weeks before I can get to the emails now, since I'm gonna have to be training them on how to do all this, so I can focus on other stuff.
Good job. Okay. Okay.
Mm.
Well, thank you so much for joining the We
Absolutely.
Time podcast. We podcast every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Your girl Tish Kanani and DJ Spin I Am. And of course, our special guest, Mr. Andre Harris from Dads Against Crimes. Again, he said the email address, not email, sorry, the URL dadsagainstcrime.org, correct?
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. Thanks so much, Andre, for joining us. We will check you guys
Thank
next
you, man.
Tuesday.
Yes. Peace.